Bigger is not always better, but it's so hard because like everything in life, there's pros and cons to everything. Welcome to Life Unleashed,
the podcast all about creating the best life for you and your furry best friend.
If you're a dog mom on the go, juggling life, work, and the endless joys of being a dog parent, then you're in the right place. I'm Dani.
And I'm Nick.
And together with the incredible dog mom community from Tails Up Pup, we're here to share advice, stories, and the obsession we have over the love for our dogs.
Get ready to laugh, learn, and lean on each other because life with your dog just got even more awesome.
We are in the full swing of summer. We have been having so much fun. Our dog's favorite thing to do is go to the pool, and we have been doing that quite a lot.
That is not the dog's only favorite thing. It is Callan's favorite thing. Callan loves the pool. He is like definitely fallen in love with the water. I feel like every time we take him, he gets more and more comfortable. Obviously, like he can't like full on swim yet, but like he kicks his feet. He likes us to.
It's so crazy how intuitive it is. Like he knew to kick his feet without us ever having to do it, and I think that that's wild. That like he just knew to do that.
He loves to float around on the float, all of that stuff. Like we've been having a good time with him. Like it's so fun. Like it's one thing. Like you know when Dani and I would go to the pool, sometimes I was like not in the mood to get in, but like every time now that Callan's there, it's like I always want to get in and have fun.
So in the spring, I had looked up some local swim places that we could take him, and Nick and I made a pact that we were gonna save on the swim lessons, especially at this age, because they are not going to teach him to swim yet unless we did ISR, which we just were not going to commit to yet. So to do like basic swim lessons, it is more about getting them comfortable in the water, and we felt like if we could commit to going to the pool a lot, then we would be able to do it ourselves. So we've been trying to go every weekend, and I feel like we've done a pretty good job, and we've had a blast doing it. And I know kids can change their preferences so quickly, but for now I'm so glad that he loves the pool, and I know like as he gets older he might develop a fear or not have the interest in getting in, but hopefully him seeing us get in the water will allow him to, you know, enjoy it as he gets older.
Do you think us having like bringing Callan in the shower and like getting his face wet and things like that have helped?
So I have seen other parents say like pour the water on your kid's head early on in the bath because you are developing them to like learn that that's fine at such a young age, that they will learn it'll be so much easier as they get older. And I feel like we've seen that. We've never had a kid that we didn't do that to, but we always did pour the water over his head ever since he's gotten a bath. And obviously he like would flinch or like try to shield his eyes in the beginning, but now he actually enjoys it and he like looks forward to the water going over his head. And yeah, Nick is mentioning the shower. Like he has like such a passion for getting in the shower instead of the bath, and he's so young. So
he hears the shower go on, like if Dani or me, whoever's in it, like he hears it, and then he like sprints to the shower no matter where he is in the house. He like
loves it.
Runs there.
Yeah, so he loves it. So we definitely did not try to give him a shower. He is the one who asked to get a shower, and we let him, and now he enjoys it. One of us is always in there with him, most of the time Nick, because then I'm the one who gets him ready for his bedtime afterwards. But that has been like a fun little transition for us. And I keep saying like, you know, you don't have to do that. We can do the bath. I think the bath would be more fun for the baby, but he
has so much fun in the shower. It's so funny too. Like he will like sometimes specifically stand under the water. So like it's beating down on his head. It's like he's struggling to breathe, but he likes it. He's purposely staying there.
So this last week when we took him to the pool, he kept putting his face into the pool. And I'm like, you know what? If that's what you want to do, it's hard to teach him not to drink it or anything, but I think he might have done it one time and realized it didn't taste that good. And so it seems like he wasn't doing that. And I have the fear of him like getting some water in his chest and then like, what is it called? Silent drowning. Like that's really scary to me. But I think for the most part, as long as you're watching them and your hands on, then it should be.
Yeah, one of us is always within like a foot or holding him in the pool. Yeah. So we're
pretty much
right
always
there.
Holding him right now because he's still so little.
Except on his float. We're right next to him on the float, but he's like doing his thing.
Nick's parents' pool has a sun shelf, which is so nice. We were saying like if they ever move or build a different pool or something, like the sun shelf is so essential for having a kid because he's able to like stand. We put his water table in there. He has so much fun on the sun shelf, so we love that.
Yeah, no, the pool has been. I just think he's probably going to be like swimming by 2. Is my guess. Like he's gonna probably.
It's hard to know because sometimes like he was taking a few steps at 9 months, but now he's fully on like walking now. So it's taken like at least a whole month for him to get from little basic things to actually doing it. So sometimes you think they're gonna learn something super quickly and they don't. So it's really hard to know.
Yeah, and I mean like once it gets cooler, like we won't be able to go to the pool and stuff. So we'll have to go like to an indoor pool. We'll have to keep that up. We'll have to try to go to the aquatic center.
Our dogs have also been loving the pool. The number one thing if you are a parent or a pet parent, is to be very mindful of the pool deck. They get so hot, even if they aren't black, if they are light color, the deck, not the dog, that they get really, really hot. And so make sure you always put your hand on them, because you won't think about it. If you have shoes on and your kid or your dog has just their bare paws, it can get super hot. So sometimes we will even put the little booties, especially on Holly. She seems to be more sensitive on the pool deck, and the booties really help. Now the dog will not like them at first, but then they get used to them.
Yeah, and like my parents' pool deck is kind of that more rough texture, so like the dogs can like really grade their nails down or whatever, and you got to be careful that they don't like rip up their paws.
It's free nail filing, but it also can go too far, so we have to be mindful, and we try to limit the time that they have on the pool deck. It's nice to have the rough pool deck because it's not slippery, but then it also can really file down their nails.
Okay, so for today's topic, I wanted to talk about the like realities of downsizing. We had this conversation with somebody a few days ago. Like we were talking about like they were talking about their office, our office space, and all this type of stuff. And like they were asking what it's like now in our house. And
they were asking if we still have any employees and stuff.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
they were asking that. And then so we basically just got into this whole like conversation about like what it was like when we had the office versus now the realities of like being in our house, and like that kind of sparked this conversation. Danny and I were on a walk yesterday, and we were like, maybe we should talk about like kind of the realities of, because
we post our whole entire life on the internet, and so we've you guys have basically seen every single nitty-gritty detail of what we have done and every like real-time moment that we have posted. And so it's easy we've talked about this before, like when people are like, oh my gosh, you guys were in Francesca's, it's like seeing these really cool big moments. People are like, oh, having the big team, having the 2 office spaces, like y'all had your huge moment, and now like meh. And that's, I feel like, how a lot of people see it, because the bigger and the better you are, like that's the ultimate goal. And like,
yeah, this idea of bigger is always better. More is always like the thing you're striving for.
So for me personally, my overarching point of this podcast topic is that bigger is not always better, but it's so hard because like everything in life, there's pros and cons to everything. And so I feel like we touched on some of these topics when we first made the podcast about like the office versus being in the house now, because we started in our basement, then we got our office space, then we got our second office space, and now we're back in a new house, but also in a basement. And it's crazy because we were always like, we need to get out of the house. There's no work-life balance in the house, and we want to have separation, and we want to have an office, and there's not enough space. And we've kind of come full circle because we're back in the basement, and it's like, y'all said you didn't like that, so why are you doing it now? And I do think that there are different phases of life. There are pros and cons to everything. And we did move houses so that we could have a better setup. And for me personally, it's hard to say what is my favorite, because I don't have a favorite, because every piece is part of the puzzle to get to like where we are now. Like right now, I'm would say that I'm the happiest I have been, but I also was super happy in the office. So I feel like you can't compare the two.
Yeah, it is hard to compare them. And I think like a lot of people maybe like on the outside looking in, this is one of those things that like you almost have to like experience it for yourself and see it to like really understand it. And this kind of like reminds me of like the whole adage of like, I think it was like Jim Carrey that says, I want everybody to like have their dreams come true, to get rich and famous, to see that like it's not all that. And like that's kind of like a little similarity to like the offices, like, and all the stuff that you had, the bigger and like the more outwardly kind of looking successful, that wasn't necessarily like the most happy we were. It was definitely, for me personally, like more stressful, like just so many more balls to juggle and things like that. Whereas like now with a much simpler setup, like I think that has actually been better for us.
I think the pros, okay, well, we can talk about like different categories, but like employees wise, the pros were like, we had so much fun. We all became friends. It was nice to have a lunch and like sit down and all chat, and like we had common interests, and obviously we all had interests that weren't common too. So like someone might have something that other people didn't know about, and like it's fun to talk about things that you don't know about and to learn about other people's interests. And like,
yeah, Danny probably gets bored hearing my same old stories.
It's different when it's just like you and your husband, and we already know know everything about each other. So it was nice for other people to bring their lives into it. And like we would go rock climbing together, even though maybe someone had never rock climbed before, and we would go on a walk. Like sometimes we would just like, everyone would put their work down and we would walk around the building. Like we don't really do anything like that anymore. And I feel like we built some really strong relationships, and that is something that is not replaceable and like was a once in a lifetime opportunity. I feel like most places you go to work, you won't become friends with everyone like that. And it truly was like, I don't know, like the ultimate team. Like we loved everyone, and it was such a cool thing that we were able to develop and create. But at the same time, Nick and I did not go into this to manage people. That's just not something we did not enjoy. We didn't know until we did it. But a lot of our jobs became having to manage all of the people, make sure everyone like knew what their job was and making sure they're getting things done on time. It's like if you have a job and you report to someone, like everyone was reporting to us, and now we were having to take on the stress of everyone. And so it wasn't like, in the grand scheme, it wasn't like that big of a deal, but we didn't want our whole life to become managing people instead of doing what we love, which is running the business on the back end. And so we decided, you know, if you downscale and take it back a step, we knew where we came from and what we were doing in our other house. And we were like, we enjoyed that aspect better.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like I 100% agree with like the people is the part that I miss by far and away the most. Like that's irreplaceable, and we just can't have that in our current setup, and I really do miss that. But like then I kind of at that point had mostly gotten out of, at least on the day-to-day all the time, making bandanas. I wasn't doing that, you know, as much, but that was replaced with managing the people that did do that. Mm-hmm. And so like there are pros and cons. Sometimes now it's like, dang, I'm kind of the only one doing that. And there are times where I'd be like, I do wish I had a team to help me with this. And then there's other times whatever where it's like, I also don't miss the headaches of having to, you know, juggle all the different personalities and stuff and trying to, you know, make, because that's another thing that's hard when you become friends with people that you're working with, and particularly people that you manage. Like there's always this fine line, and our team was great. We rarely had little things like this come up, but inevitably there's always going to be stuff where it comes up to where it's like, you know, that conversation might have to happen of like, well, this isn't being done this way. And like, if you're friends with somebody, some people take that better than others. Mm-hmm. And so that just can be a delicate conversation to have with a friend versus like, if it's a strict, you know, kind of like office 9 to 5 that you have no actual friendship with the person, that may be a little bit easier of a conversation to have. Conflict like that's always going to be difficult, but it's even harder when... I also
feel like it's important to say that there were quite a few employees who were never seen on camera. And so there were people who preferred to be on camera and people who preferred not to be on camera. And there were also people who worked different hours than other people, and especially when we were filming. So there were like, I don't know, main people that were seen in our reels and our TikTok. And there were people who were basically never seen. So there were plenty of employees that you may know very well and some that you may not know at all. So I feel like when we're talking about people and things and situations, people are like, oh, there were these 3 main people, and it's like, no, those were the people that were seen the most in videos, but there were plenty of people that were not seen.
Well, that's something that I really definitely forget, because like from our standpoint, I feel like everybody, it was like I saw every person at the office equally, mm-hmm. pretty much. But like from the like outside from social media side, what everybody can see, like if you're listening to this, what you could see, what like Danielle's saying, it wasn't that way.
Yes.
And I kind of forget about that.
Yeah. Everyone that you saw was like who they were and like their personalities, which I think was so fun because the viewers and the community all would find someone that they related to more. And they would come and tell us, and they'd be like, oh, I love Ensley because I like her style, or I like Lauren because I like her spunk, and I like Dani because, I don't know, whatever. Yeah. I just think it was cool that people would find someone that they related to.
A lot of people love Keelan.
Yes, yeah. And so I think that was really fun. Like, everyone kind of had their person, and it was like almost kind of like a little TV show, because we would post every day. We'd post stories real time. We'd post reels and TikToks. And my full-time job was filming. So, I mean, if that was my full-time job, we created a lot of content, and I think that was like a really fun aspect. I did want to say too, like anyone who's running a business or doing something like this, like everyone's going to make different decisions. And so we're saying like we didn't like managing people, so we wanted to downscale. Like you could have other options. You could continue to keep going. You could hire people to manage those people. And it really comes down to money and having to pay all these people, and you know, all these wheels are spinning, and there's a lot of different moving pieces that have to go if you're going to continue to grow. grow. And we just ultimately decided, like, in this moment, that this was the best decision for us to downscale, because we can have less orders, we can have less people, and we can continue to run the business the way that we enjoy running it and grow our family. And so this could eventually be like us saying we're never going to work in our basement again, and here we are. Like, we could end up having a whole team again and trying to grow and like do things like that, but just for this phase of life. And that's what I was talking when we talked about this conversation with our friend a few days ago. I was just telling them, it's really about phases of life, and this is what is best for us in this phase of life. We wanted to have kids, we wanted to grow our family, and we wanted to have the time to spend with our family. If we were still in the office and had all 10 employees and we're trying to like run that show and sail that ship, whatever the saying is, like, we would not be able to spend the time that we are with Callan. We would have had to put him in full-time daycare or have a nanny or whatever. But like, we right now get to spend so much time with him. And that's what we wanted. And
it's really interesting, like, looking back in hindsight, we really now can see the full picture. When it's happening, like, in the moment, you don't know what the future is going to hold. We didn't know what decisions we were going to make and how things were going to play out. But like, I really do believe that God kind of led us in this direction, because I would say the first thing that started pushing us this way is like, pretty much at one point we had like the biggest part of the team, and slowly but surely, most people were either college students or like, relatively recently college graduates. Yes. And so this was kind of like I don't want to say transition job for people, but in a lot of ways it was like, I don't think people got like accepted. People
weren't coming to work for us to make it their lifelong job.
This wasn't going to be their full-time career. And we
didn't have the money to pay them to make it their full-time job at that time anyways, which is understandable.
Well, it was a full-time job, but it wasn't a full-time high-paying job.
Correct.
And so
for some people.
Yeah, for some people.
Some people were part-time.
Right. Yeah, some people were part-time. But basically it's like we knew that was a possibility when we hired everybody, and then over the course of a few years, that started to actually play itself out. And so like, Keelan, for instance, like, he was still in school, but he got a very good opportunity with Coca-Cola. And it's like, well, of course, Keelan, you need to go take that opportunity. If that's what you want to do for your career, absolutely. And I mean, Vinny, all the people, like, there was just, different reasons for them to leave for their careers, fits, all that type of stuff. Connor, I think, he didn't want to make dog bandanas for the rest of his life. I understand that. And it's like, so, after that started to happen, and it was like kind of one by one over time, it was like, we had a decision to make. It was like, do we replace that person, or do we try to pick up the slack? And for a while we did pick up the slack with the idea of trying to keep everything that we had going. But eventually it got to the point, it's like, wow, we're working ourselves and the other people that we had at that point, like, really hard trying to keep the same amount of stuff going. And then over time that just, got to be like, and then you lose one more person and be like, now the real decision is to be made. Do we continue down this path, or do we start to think about an actual downsizing option, and what does that look like? And we, didn't ever really have that conversation until pretty, a little bit later on. But it all
happened pretty quickly, because Nick and I sat down. We were like, okay, we think we had said we wanted to have kids after 5 years of marriage. That had come and gone. Now it was 6 years. And we were like, you know what? Time's going to keep ticking. Are we just going to take the leap and actually start our family? And then I sat down and I'm like, okay, well, here's the logistics. If we want to have the time with our kid, they're going to come to the office with us. So are we going to have a crib and like a playpen and all these, two of everything in the office and at home? And it's like,
and is that fair to the kid?
Yeah. And like, logistically, how is this even going to work? Like, we have all this equipment, and like, can the kid really be running around? And like, it just seemed like it was not possible. And it is. I mean, anything's possible. You can make anything work. But for us, it was just like
we were leaning towards a different decision. But it's funny, like, in hindsight now, like, you can look back and you can actually see that transition happen before in real time we knew it was happening.
Yeah.
Like, I think there was a long time that we continued, really till like we're typically like stay the course. And then, most everything in our life, we've had very big pivot moments. It's like, you know what, this isn't, we don't think this is the right way anymore. Big decision, make the decision and move forward. That's kind of, I feel like, how we've been in all our business decisions and like our marriage, buying a house. Like, it's just like we continue down the same road, and then eventually we're like, big change.
Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy. I feel like we are so happy with where we are now, and we're able to, still both be full-time in Tales of Pup, raise our family, and this is just the right thing for right now. And even though it is downsizing in our business, it's not taking a step backwards for us. It's not like, oh, we failed, or like it is a phase of life. Like everything that we've done has had a purpose and has been right for that moment, and this is what's right for now. And it's, who knows what the future will hold, but I feel like this is right for right now.
And it's really interesting, like how things work, at least the way that it's worked for our business. There's like all these like tipping points, I feel like, where, kind of decisions have to be made. And like that first tipping point in our business was like, we had to make the decision of, do we go from our first basement to the office space? And where we were financially at that time, like in hindsight now, like what I know, that was like such a risky decision. Like if things wouldn't have worked out that the way that they did, and we weren't able to grow, we would have been in so much trouble financially.
Yeah.
I don't know if like you remember like the revenue at that time and the basement to like what we totally underestimated what we needed to make to like support the office and the employees
we
we were
weren't
going to hire.
planning to get all those employees.
I know that also like when good people come your way, you feel like you have to make room for them,
because
and try to
every employee that worked for us came to us. I think Brittany was the only employee
that we went out and kind of found.
and found her, but everyone else came to us because they had followed us or seen us on social media. So like it's crazy that especially like I remember like Lauren coming, she emailed or something, and I was like, we're really not hiring, but she seems like a perfect fit for our team, so maybe we just like hear her out. And then it was like, okay, this is perfect, like let's just do it. And it was like these people were coming to us, so it was like we weren't really planning to have all these people.
Yeah,
but...
I mean, Inslee's really funny in the sense that like Inslee kind of got hired with your job could be anything.
Yeah, she's like, what's the job description? We're like, we actually don't really know. Like, whatever we need you to do.
I think it kind of was like Dani and Nick's assistant, which includes literally anything and everything that they like need help with, which is everything that we did.
And then like a few days into it, I'm like, yeah, I think like we maybe should sell like clothing for humans. And she's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then she comes to me like a few months later. She's like, I think I should change my job description. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, that's so funny. But yeah, I mean, so I was talking about the phases. So like that first phase, like looking back, like, we were, you could call it luck, whatever, but like thankfully things worked out for us. And that was a good transition at that point. But then, as, things started to change with our employees starting to leave and like the economy changing and things like that, like, we had to make another big decision point, and, that was to do this. And I think there's like two ways we could have gone. Like we could have said, let's stick it out. And if we did decide to stick it out, we would have had to continue to double down and actually try to grow. What I like, there's these like plateau points that if you can't break through it, it's like you're actually doing a lot more work and making less money versus like now that we're in our house, Danielle and I are actually able to bring home more money in this situation, even though we're making less revenue because we don't have to pay, the office space and all the people. That was the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah. And I think that like that's important for people who are like listening about like custom orders and embroidered orders. It's like an order would have to be way more expensive back then because we were having to pay all these moving pieces, the employees who were all a part of this order. And if it took them a certain amount of time, and then like if this person was also linked into it, is like all these moving pieces all played into the price of the product. And now it's Nick and I. So like if someone messages me about a custom order, I'm the person opening the message, giving the ideas, executing it, and I have a filing cabinet in my brain, so like I can remember everything. So it's gonna be much quicker for me than if the person's coming to me, I'm have to relay a message to someone else who's going to have to relay a message to someone else, like all these moving pieces. Like now we're able to keep our costs down for you guys, and we're able to retain more of the profits. And even though the revenue is down, we are still able to do more ourselves, which is nice.
And I mean, that really is like a decision point that had to be made. Cause like if we would have stayed in the office, like, and if you look all around the country for like almost any type of item. Look how much prices have gone up. Our bandana price basically hasn't changed probably in like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I would say overall, most of our embroidery hasn't changed.
But like the cost of fabric has gone up.
Yeah,
but we have maintained our prices because we have not had to increase those as we have downscaled our business.
Right. And so like the more like pieces that, I mean, because an office space was expensive, like the insurance alone to do that, not to mention the rent, like all the other expenses. And then like Danny's talking about paying the people. So there were just so many moving pieces that went into that. So in order to maintain that, you really had to increase like the revenue that you're bringing in to make that viable long term. And that was like a decision point that we had to make, is like, okay, are we going to really try to hit that next goal? Or if we decide to not to do that, then we'll have to, get rid of the office space and things like that. And so, that was a hard decision to make, but it's like, from our perspective, it made the most sense for us.
It's also crazy how the economy changed and people's buying behavior changed, and it all just lined up with us downscaling because people were no longer on their phones and social media as much. And like the buying behavior like really changed after the pandemic and people went back to more of a normal life. And it's just interesting too, because like so many people were home working and now everyone was going back to an office, and just like so many things changed at the same time.
We saw, I don't think I've ever talked about this before. We saw this coming before it actually came. And I don't know
if if a giant tidal wave is coming, you can see it from the horizon. Like we saw it, but we were like, you don't know if it's going to crash or not.
Well, and so revenue actually, like we saw this when our revenue was at its absolute most. And I'll tell you what made me have a very good, and you too, Danny, we had a very good feeling of why this was coming. And it was because we were at this point, we had become so efficient at like the making and all the stuff. We were actually, as a whole team, putting the most effort we ever had into like our content and growing ads, advertising, all the things. So like we were going full steam, probably 2 or 3 times more than we'd ever done. And like our revenue for like 4 or 5 months in a row had barely gone up each month. Mm-hmm. And this is like the busiest time of year. And so like when I saw how much more effort we were putting in with almost no results, that really was like alarm bells were going off, basically saying that like, okay, we know we can't maintain this level for a long time. And if we're not seeing these types of results, I think that something is like, the buying environment is changing.
Yeah.
And so when what happened was pretty much, a few months after we had that conversation, like it dropped off a cliff, and it was that way for a lot of people that we know.
We did have an advertising team as well who helped us. We created all the content, but they did the back end of like running the ads, and they do that for other companies too. And they were saying like it's so interesting from their point of view because they were seeing it with all similar types of businesses, and the ones that were thriving more were these really luxury goods. But I guess that makes sense because people who have that amount of money like weren't changing their buying behavior, but like the average consumer was.
Yeah, the middle price to lower priced items, like they said, like it's almost impossible to get like a really good return on like your ad spend, and like we were starting to see that. And that was probably like the last, like we had already noticed that we wanted to have a family and all of these things, and that was probably like the last thing that we saw. I was like, I don't know that this is going to be like, if that would have happened and we hadn't made plans to get out of the office, that we would have also been screwed then.
Yeah, everything really worked out for a reason. Because even when we were deciding to get rid of the office, like we were sad. We were like, is this the right thing? And like, we really enjoyed this. So like, should we do this? But now looking back, it's like everything happened at the right time for the right reason. And it's crazy that God really did play a huge role in it for us.
He opened every single door he needed to open for it to happen for us, because we had signed another year on the lease. We were able to get out of that early.
Yeah.
And that way, they do not let people out of like office leases early normally.
And we absolutely love our house, our neighborhood, everything about this location. We are further from like downtown where all the restaurants are, and that was like the saddest part, is like leaving our like main area. But we love where we are because we're like more secluded. We're in a really safe area. Callan's gonna have so much fun running around. We have the best neighbors. Like last night we were outside and like like we saw every neighbor and chatted and all had a great time, and like we're going to a neighborhood pool party, all the fun things. Like we just didn't have any of that at our old house. And I don't know, I mean, obviously like kids really help you get involved as well, but I just think that we have like such an awesome community in our neighborhood, our gym. Like we just love who we are surrounded by, and it's crazy that a year ago we didn't know any of these people, and now they have become such an important part of our life.
Yeah, it is literally so crazy how much a difference like a year can make. Like when you're thinking about it, it's like like you said, we knew none of these people.
And the other day you were bringing up like the conversation of if the doors opened for us to move back to the other town, like would we do that? And it would be such a hard decision because we loved our life then, but we love our life now. And it's like, how do you know if moving would be the right time? And like, we don't know. We didn't buy this house thinking this was our forever home, but we also didn't buy it thinking it wasn't our forever home. Like for me, I think it's funny when people are like 28, 29, and they're like, just bought my forever home. It's like, how do you know? Like you have like probably like 70 years left of your life. Like, how do you know? So much can change. Like I'm just the type of person who lives their life like you have no idea what opportunities are going to come or who's going to come across and like what's going to happen in your family, or like you just don't know. So I don't know that I would ever say it's my forever home, because I'm like, how do you know? Like
no, I mean, and we're like, look at our life. Like there has been so many times where like you make the best plans and you know try to stick to those as best you can, but the world, God, like sometimes have other plans for you. And when those doors open or some are closed, like you have to adapt to those situations.
Yeah.
And like we've seen that happen so many different times. I mean, like when we got the second office space, we thought that was like 100% the best decision, or else we wouldn't have done it. And it turned out like we should have figured out ways to deal with like the inflow in that time. We didn't actually need the extra space long term. Mm-hmm. You know, we had to make that decision. We had to learn that lesson. And you know, like that's everything that we've had to do.
Overall, I feel like the message I would like to leave people walking away with is that downsizing is not always failing or taking a step backwards, and it might be the right thing for you at the right time. So, and also don't worry about what other people are thinking, because if someone is thinking, oh, they failed or they tried and they just didn't succeed, it's like, it doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks. And even if you did fail, like at least you tried. Like good for you. Like you should be proud of trying, and everyone does fail at certain things. So that's okay too. But just know that if you are downsizing in whatever aspect, that it doesn't necessarily mean failure, and that might be the best thing for you to succeed in the long run.
Yeah, and I mean, literally the thing is like every person's situation is different, and like even like the fact that we share so much of our story and everything that goes on online, like you guys still aren't able to see everything from our perspective real time, and so maybe you've seen things that we've done, and you're like, I don't know why they did that, and it's like you weren't in our shoes. Mm-hmm. You didn't get to see it exactly the way that we are saying it. And the thing is also, we're different people. You may have made a different decision than we did, and that's the thing, is like you have to make the best decision like for you at the time with the information that you have, and then you have to see that out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's plenty of times we've been wrong. We've made plenty of wrong decisions, but the point is you have to make a decision, stick with it, and then just see what happens.
Very true. Thank you guys so much for listening. Also, give us some feedback. Should we keep with the podcast or should we take a break? We have been dabbling in the thought of making it to 100 episodes and maybe taking a break. Some people do like seasons and then take a break and come back. And I'm like, I don't know. Should we keep going or should we not?
The thing is, I love the podcast, and it's just the big question that we've had for that is it's definitely hard with Callan's nap schedule. He's trying to like throw this morning nap, and so it makes it hard to like find the time to record it. But if you guys like really love it and you really, you know, want us to continue to make them, we'll try to, you know, squeeze it into other times of the day.
It is one of the branches in our business that does not bring us any revenue. We do this simply because we think it's fun, and we have gotten feedback from the community that this is a great free thing for you guys. So if you guys enjoy it, then let us know and we will continue on with it. And if you don't care, or maybe you say, yeah, let's all take a break from it and we'll come back in a month or two.
Yeah, feedback would be good. So like, I guess they got to message you for that, right?
Yeah, message me. Let me know.
On
Say,
Instagram.
Life Unleashed. Here is my input. I like it, love it, or leave it.
Or undecided. No undecided. You have to give a yes or no.
Yes, I need an answer. Thank you. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.